Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the smart minds sitting over here. I'm sorry beforehand if I say anything wrong because I'm doing my debut in conferences. So, this is my first ever conference that I'm attending. That is too by JuliaCon. So, if I do anything wrong, I'm really sorry. And a disclaimer beforehand, no packages, no code, just a qualitative study that I'm representing. This is a study that I did when I started working on Julia. I remember I was taking my course on Julia with parallel programming, and I wrote my first multi-threaded code, and it crashed. There was false sharing happening, race conditions happening. There was so many things happening that I couldn't understand. So I thought, let's take a pitch on this and work on what challenges people like me who don't know anything about Julia face. So this is me sitting, okay, guys? This is me sitting between Julia and multithreading, trying to figure out that what am I writing. As a novice developer, as somebody who start, we need to know that how the syntax is working, how to remove the race condition, how to check where is the memory allocation happening. So all these challenges that people face while they're writing code, I have described over there. So this was done using a qualitative content analysis approach. I'm sorry if you haven't heard it before because this is usually used in HCI, that is human computer interaction. Why did I choose this was to try to have an in-depth understanding of how people use Julia for multi-threading. It was cost effective. I didn't have to buy any software because it was all manually done by me. I had to read all the Julia Discourse questions, all the Stack Overflow questions to understand what people are trying to write. So I did that, I'm sorry. And I have identified some patterns and themes from this data and also understood what psychology people have behind asking these questions. So the findings. So these were the 5 themes that I had. Theme 1 were how people were tagging the questions. They didn't know how to do this thing, and then what I expected and what was the reality. And the 4th theme was difference of platform usage. So just a quick heads up, I have actually compared Julia Discourse and Stack Overflow somewhere or the other. And the last was what difficulty they face. Before I move towards stats, this was some statistical data. So I saw that obviously performance issues always rise in multi-threading support. So people ask questions about that. But the interesting fact was that people inquired about a lot of things that they were not able to get in official documentation. So they had a lot of questions and inquiries about different topics that I'll be discussing in the next slide. And then when we got that we had performance issues, we tried to figure it out that what were the causes behind them. For example, here we saw that memory allocation playing a great part. So at today's keynote speaking thing, when they just skipped the multi-threading support part, I felt bad. So it was quite hurtful that they haven't talked about how, they have talked about garbage collection, they have improved it. So this study was way before that version that they are going to release. So these were some of the issues that people faced, like they were mistaken by how to use the macros, how memory is being allocated, how global variables work. So these were all the causes that we find behind slow performance. Well, this was a topic that I just said that people ask about good practices, whether their code is correct or not, how to switch between multi-threading on and off, which was quite interesting to know that people do ask about that. And testing and debugging was not part of that, which was quite what was not expected, that we were thinking that people would be asking about how to test their code, how to debug their code, but nobody asked. So the other pie chart that you can see is we have compared Stack Overflow and Julia Discourse. There were fewer posts on Stack Overflow as compared to Julia Discourse, but the interesting fact is all of them were solved. And there were none which were not like, there were very few that were solved, but they were not being reported as solved. So this is, I think, which is whether there is a change and there's a maintenance change needed in Julia Discourse. So just taking a elaborating the themes. So the first theme was, where should I tag this? And I saw a lot of posts, people actually tagging multi-threading and meta programming, distributed programming under the same tag called multi-threading, which it is not. I'm sorry. And then it was important to know that when people tag these posts under the wrong tag, it can lead to wrong audience, and it can you can't get the answer. You can just they're not able to solve it for you. So this may confuse the participant and the discussion forum which is helping you out. The next was, how do I do this? So here we'll be talking about something that everybody has talked already, that was on the survey as well, that people have some issues with the official documentation. They find it very unclear. They try to inquire about these concepts using minimum work examples. They want to know that how this concept has been done, and if there could be a working example to explain that. Also, I have seen that various performance tips have been provided by Julia before writing a multi-threaded code, but nobody takes them into account while writing them. So it's a problem. So these were some of the posts that we found where people have written about this thing. That one of the posts you can see that I'm sure the elegant answer is in the documentation, but I am not able to find it. And then we have also seen that I have read the documents and many topics in the discourse, but I'm still not sure if I'm doing it right. So these were some of the posts that we find, and we have seen people inquiring about various concepts. The third theme was expectation versus reality. So while I was conducting this research, I saw a lot of papers on debugging and testing. So we use it for multi-threading. I was expecting a lot of questions on that, but didn't get any, just like one question in the whole multi-threaded tag. And then we saw that we have read that atomic operations are used for avoiding race conditions, but they are not being suggested by developers on the discourse because they impact the performance of the code in a very different and a bad way. So developers expect Julia to behave same. I have seen today that people comparing R, Stata, Julia. This is what we saw in for multi-threading as well, that people try to compare the performances from different platforms with Julia, which was quite interesting aspect. Somebody just told that Chapel, I think Chapel works better. So there are many things that have people said on the discourse. So yeah, so this is what people have told on discourse, some of the examples with that. Moving forward, comparing Stack Overflow and Julia discourse, as I said, Stack Overflow tend to have more solved posts. Maybe this is because Stack Overflow is encouraging in a factor that they have badges, they have maintainers, they are just motivating the potential developers to come and just solve their issues and just to talk on something. I think we can do it as well in a very good way, that we can have an organized way for Julia discourse. We can have people who can maintain the post and then something to encourage the developers to come and solve the issues. Then we had some the theme 5 difficulty, where most of the race conditions were happening, which was due to the lack of knowledge of scope of variables. Then we found that people are confused about memory model of Julia, which was also explained today in a keynote speaking, that the memory model issue has not been still solved. Some features and usage factors of macros is not clearly documented. So, well, I think this needs to be done. So this is some of the examples with that. I'm sorry for not explaining. So this is some of the future recommendations that we found, that we can improve our official documentation. We can also improve some features and the usage of macros with proper minimum, with the example, and to be clearly documented. There are some novice developers confused with the usage of atomic operations while they're working on threads. Memory model of Julia is still, they need more clarity about that, how the threads are being accessed over there. And then maintenance of Julia discourse needs some more encouragement to engage higher audience, because I think Julia, it is that Julia has a potential to reach the highest platform it can. So this was everything that I had for this small talk. Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you so much to UNB and Julia community for giving me the opportunity to present here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harshita, for the interesting talk.
Hi, Stephen.
Just 1 or 2 questions.
Yes, sir. It's like I did everything by myself. Manually, no software. I had to read every post by myself and just put it into words and then do the statistical analysis on that. So yeah, it was a lot of work. So he has so he has a question if I have a published paper or not. So fortunately, I just completed this study last month, and I'm looking forward to maybe publish this as a paper so that people can have a knowledge from this. So it could be a chance. Thank you so much to everyone.